My name is Artur. I am 22 years old, and the story I'm about to share happened 9 years ago. At that time, I was the son of the current mayor of our town. My father had always held political roles, so our life was always quite hectic. Recently, I had lost my mother. We weren't sure what had happened. She had simply disappeared from home, leaving a letter where she said she couldn't bear living with my father anymore and decided to leave. At that moment, I was devastated, but something seemed strange to me, as my mother loved me more than anything in this world. Our relationship was very healthy, and she would never have done that without taking me with her or at least saying goodbye. Over time, we began to accept the situation. It was a real scandal. My father watched his career collapse before his eyes. Every evening, he would usually walk through the mountains surrounding the town. Every time he passed by the cemetery, he would notice a man holding a shovel and wearing a blue jumpsuit. He had a rather stern expression and seemed to stare at me intensely. He was the gravedigger of our town's cemetery. Most people avoided speaking to him, claiming he was somewhat out of his mind. A few months before my mother's departure, he had set his house on fire, burning everything. After that episode, he started living in a small room within the cemetery, near the main entrance. I also tried to avoid crossing his path, but every time I passed by, he would fix his gaze on me, as if wanting something. One afternoon, while returning from my walk, an unexpected storm struck the town. Afraid to continue, I decided to take shelter in the cemetery to escape the rain. That's when the gravedigger appeared and offered me shelter in his little room, explaining that the river had overflowed and that going along the road might be risky. It would be wiser to wait for the storm to pass. I felt a bit uneasy, as the man seemed insane. However, I didn't have many options, so I decided to accept the help he offered. He gave me a blanket and a hot soup, which I gratefully accepted. As our conversation continued, I began to realize that the fear I had felt about this man was dissipating. In fact, everything I had heard about him were just rumors from the town. I felt the need to share this with him. He laughed and told me not to worry, as he was used to this kind of judgment. After more time talking, he apologized, saying he needed to store the tools he had left at the cemetery. Despite the heavy rain, he said goodbye and left. I stayed there, stirring the soup, until I absent-mindedly brushed the blanket against the lantern on the table. In an instant, the blanket caught fire. I ran outside and headed to the back of the room, trying to extinguish the flames with the rainwater. Unfortunately, I stumbled and fell. As I looked around, I found numerous bones scattered around. They were the remains of a person. Immediately, a wave of terror overwhelmed me, and I ran toward the gate, wanting to escape that place. That's when I saw the gravedigger coming toward me, wielding a machete. In a state of desperation, I tried to open the gate, but it was already locked. Then, I started running through the cemetery, searching for another exit. At that moment, I fell into an open grave. Upon landing, I was surprised to find a coffin down there. The impact of my weight broke the lid, and to my complete shock, I found my mother inside it. Tears started to well up, but I had to stay silent because the gravedigger could find me. He had been responsible for my mother's death and was trying to bury her in a grave that had already been used. The torrential rain made the grave fill with water quickly. Then, I heard the gravedigger scream, "I am a murderer, that's what I am, kid." But crazy. Not at all. I wanted to kill you and your whole family. This is not an illusion. He continued. Your father made up a story that I had burned my own house down, but that's not true. He hired his goons to burn my house just to take the land. Then he spread this lie all over town. And who would believe a gravedigger? I plan to eliminate all of you. I've already gotten rid of your mother, now it's your turn, and then, your father. Sadness overtook me, and I couldn't stop crying. I never imagined that power had corrupted my father so much that he would commit such a heinous crime. However, my anger intensified when I realized that the gravedigger had been responsible for my mother's death, someone who had nothing to do with all of this. This couldn't be left like this. I found a sharp piece of wood that had broken off from the coffin lid and went after him. I crouched between the tombs and began walking, but I couldn't find him. Then, he appeared from behind and cut my leg. I immediately fell to the ground. He began kicking me in the back, saying that I would pay the consequences for my father's crimes. At that moment, he prepared to stab me with the machete. That's when I turned around and found the courage to drive the piece of wood into his chest. I got up, took the gate keys from his pocket, and left. Later, I told everything to my father. I explained that his actions had cost my mother's life and nearly mine as well. He realized the mistake he had made and decided to turn himself in. His sentence was reduced when he revealed the true story of the gravedigger to the town.